Hi, I'm Peyton Dean Blasco. As a teenager, many of us haven't had the honor of having grandparents or even great-grandparents that have lived during a time that we read about in history books. Our generation, those born after 2000 and the 21st century, don't know of the many events of the 20th century. So when you have the opportunity to meet someone who is 70, 80, or maybe 90 or 100 years of age, take the time to listen to what I'm calling Living History, or in the case of Mr. Grasso, Living His Story. January 17th, 2019, Mr. Leonard Grasso turned 98 years old, and he is a Seabreeze graduate from 1939. Please take the time to watch and listen to a Sandcrab for life share his memories at age 98, speaking about a time that we don't often hear about as teenagers. It's living history that only he can tell. This is Mr. Grasso in his own words.
What was it like growing up in Daytona Beach in the 1920s and the 1930s? Share 2 or 3 experiences that you remember the most.
Okay. Well, the town was very small, didn't have too many people here, and you could almost buy anything, land, reasonable, $200, $300, $500, about any piece of lot you wanted. They were and driving, as far as driving is concerned for youngsters, there wasn't any law. You could get in a car at 10 years old and drive all around the town. I was 14 years old and drove somebody to Boston at age 14, going all through Pittsburgh, New York City, and all that, yeah.
Now, you served in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
What would you want a younger generation to never forget about that war?
Well, if you saw all the boys that were killed along with the fighting that I was in, and they lost their lives. Some of them were married like I was during the war. I just got married and got shipped over, left my wife with a little boy, and was gone for 4 years. And I had good experience in, except for the war, the fighting, because we had to take this island and it was controlled by the Japanese, and we lost quite a few boys taken at. Then we had to set up headquarters there. And the fact that I had this wonderful business teacher at Seabreeze in 1935, took a liking into me, you know, and he said, Len, he says, I want you to take 2 years of typing, shorthand, and accounting. And of course, I came from a poor family, and I said, went along with him because he took interest in me. And because of that, that saved my life. We took the island. They set up headquarters, and they needed secretarial help. And I had the most secretarial help. So I became the colonel who was head. He was in charge of this area. I became his private secretary. And I was taken off the field, otherwise I'd be still in the field fighting. So that saved my life.
Share some of your memorable teaching moments at Seabreeze High School back then as a typewriting teacher.
Yeah. Well, of course, I not only taught typing, I taught business English, business law, shorthand, and accounting. That was my field, see, that I taught in high school and in college, yeah. Then I was a substitute teacher at Bethune-Cookman, did a lot of work for them, and it was all free and never charged them a penny. And I got to know Mary Bethune-Cookman personally, and I have a lot of letters here in my house where they thank me for all my service, yeah.
Now, it's been said that you were also a graduate of Stetson University?
Yes.
What was Stetson University like back then, and why was college important for you?
Well, it was my livelihood. See, I figured if I got a degree, I would get a better job, make more money for my family. And as far as Stetson was concerned, it was very resolved, and they had a lot of religious requirements over there when I went, and we have to go to services, and if you didn't go, they wouldn't fail you because you didn't go, but they looked down on you. So I went to all the services and never missed any. And as far as I was young, And I didn't have much educational background, you know, except high school. And it was kind of tough on me. Then I was away in the war for 4 years, and subjects were pretty tough. And so I used to get a lot of help, and I finally made it, yeah. Made the honor roll 3 or 4 times, yeah. And I was proud of myself, yeah.
So how would you define your teaching career? What would you say was the pivotal point of your
Well, I tell you, about the first 20 years, I couldn't wake up early enough to go teach. The students were beautiful. All the girls came well dressed. Didn't have their knees open, you know. Like it was when I left, you know. I saw one here that reminded me of my last few days at Seabreeze, but that didn't bother me. That was their style. And like I say, the boys had to be well dressed, and there wasn't any drugs at that time, you know, my first 20 years. And the most they ever drank was a beer, and very few of them smoked, you know. Well, I mean, cigarettes and cigars and stuff. We didn't have drugs in those days, yeah. And we had one man who was a commander in the Navy in World War II. And his job was to check everybody's apparel, make sure they were dressed properly. The boys came to school without a belt, they went home, see? And there wasn't any ruckus about it because these were the rules, you know. But the rules lightened up as the years went by.
And what do you think about today's high school students?
Well, I haven't taught any of them, but what from I hear, I go over to the bank here every once in a while, and I see there's a certain fence where they jump over, and all you have to do is stay there. You get about 15 or 20 kids in 10 minutes. Then they jump back over the fence again. See, well, we didn't have any of that because we had a couple of policemen on duty all the time, and the only thing we had was going from school to McDonald's. Yeah, that was the only thing there.
Did you have any violence or anything that you had to deal with back in those days?
Finance?
School violence, as in guns, knives, fighting. Was it any of that?
No, not the first 15, 20 years. But even my last 10 years, I didn't see too much of it either, but it got worse as the years went by, yeah.
When were you born? What's your birth date?
Oh, yeah. I was born in 21, January the 17th, 1921, which makes me this January, I'll be 98 years old. Yeah. Still in the vertical.
And vibrant as well. Technology. What was technology like back then? I mean, we're right now, we have a camera, we have audio.
Yeah.
What was technology like back
Not
then?
in the 30s, we didn't have any. Just a little old radio. If you had a radio, no television. I grew up without television, just had a little radio, that was all.
Your final thoughts about life, just things that pop into your head that you think about on a daily basis now.
Well, you know, I was one of 13 children, and we had it pretty tough. When I lived in New Jersey, the first part of my life, my dad was pretty wealthy, and we had it easy. And then he got real sick, and he had to move to Florida on account of his health. And when we moved down, we left most of the wealth to my oldest brother, which is an Italian tradition. The oldest son or daughter gets everything, you know, and they carry on what you left, and so we moved here, and my dad was a builder and a carpenter, and we had to start all over again. So I was fortunate because I helped him quite a bit and learned a lot of the trades, yeah.
Any thoughts that you want to share? How long have you been married to your wife?
Yeah, well, we met at a dance hall.
Oh, yeah.
She thought I was very handsome. She asked me for a dance.
I never
Just the opposite, I asked her. And from then on, she was,
forget it.
when we got married, she turned 17, and I was still almost 21, and we were married, well, maybe about 6 months, and then Uncle Sam picked me up and took me for a ride over the Philippines. That was some ride, 23 days on the water, night and day, 7,000 boys on one ship. We slept that far apart, 7 up. That's all we had, was that much breathing space. And then we weren't told too much about bathing and what have you, so I decided to go and take a shower one day and picked up their soap, saltwater soap. I didn't know it was a difference between saltwater soap and regular soap. So I got saltwater soap and going like this, you know. No, I think I brought my own, and I'm going rubber like this and no foam, you know. Then I found out, and I was wound up itchy and all that, and then they told me, you got to take saltwater soap. So that was a problem I learned after that.
You were stationed in
But
Aberdeen.
I tell you,
In Aberdeen, Maryland.
when I got the job as a colonel's secretary, he was MacArthur's right-hand man. And about a month later, he got orders from MacArthur, General MacArthur, to get transferred up to Manila, which is a big city. And so I said to Colonel, I said, I guess this will be the end of us. He said, no. He said, you'll be with me in Manila. He said, as soon as I get there, I'll talk to the general. And a month later, I got orders from General MacArthur to get transferred from the island of W.L.I.T to Manila, yeah. So I stayed with him right till the end, yeah. 1945, the war was over, and we had fireworks, everybody shooting out lights, everything. Man, I ran undercover, got away from the windows and what have you, because they were glad the war was over, yeah.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and I know the students are
No,
very interested.
beautiful.
And want to be
I
part
love
of this.
students, yeah. And being one of 13, we didn't have too many choices. We had a tough time just putting food on the table and staying alive, yeah. But we all made it.
And everybody
All
had
my
to listen to the
sisters
same
and
radio show, probably.
I had 8 sisters and 4 brothers beside me. We had a nice time. We all enjoyed one another. We didn't have many luxuries, but we helped one another. The older sisters taught the younger ones, see, because my mom and dad didn't speak English, so they had to be our teachers at home.
Don't forget you had a brother too that was a
What's that?
Brother that was a priest, she said.
He was so nice.
And he was also a teacher at Seabreeze.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad had 2 brothers that taught at Seabreeze. One
Yeah, I had
taught
2
Latin.
younger brothers. One became a priest, and the other one was a language and English teacher. And there was 3 brothers, 3 of us teaching at Seabreeze at the same time, yeah. And they're both gone now. And
That was in the 70s.
They were gone to the...
they were good teachers. Everybody loved them, yeah. You know, I want to tell you a little story.
Yeah.
My dad was a builder, and I learned all the trades with him, you know. So one day we had this black fellow who was our plasterer. I got to tell him this story. And he was upstairs waiting for us to bring the mud to him. And my brother Tom and I were digging 27 bags of plaster. So he said to me, he called down, he said, Mr. Leonard, he said, you know, old John only got but one mama, and y'all fixing to kill me. He saw that mud, he didn't like it. And so Seabreeze High School, when I graduated in '39, I was not a Sandcrab, I was a Buccaneer. And then from 40 on, it became Seabreeze, Sandcrabs. Some 39, yeah.
Thank you for watching this mini documentary. I hope you were as enlightened to hear his story as I was, along with some of my classmates as we recorded his memories in his home. It was a digital media production field trip that we'll always remember from our days as Seabreeze High School students.